We kept planning, we kept meeting with vendors and merchants and negotiating deals. We were never able to consummate those deals, and that went on and on. And finally, at one point, we just were very frustrated, and we scrapped the entire mission.
Mid-South Viewpoint, a Christian news and information feature of Bott Radio Network 640 AM, discussing the news, views, issues, and concerns that affect our community. Join us now for today's edition of Mid-South Viewpoint.
Thank you so much again for allowing us to be here one more time. I want to thank God really for what He did. He answered our prayer after we pray and then we cry out that we need help from Him, that we can go and help the Nubian people. He answered prayer soon. And I want to thank also these people that stand with us, with their finance, with their prayer. We was able to make it to Nuba Mountain, and we reached there and we meet people that we was, we were seeking to meet them. And it was so great mission for me. And people, they were so happy when they saw us. We arriving to the village and to the area, and all people that we meted, they was really very glad, and the joy was full their life because of what we did for our journey for them.
A lot of people have not heard about the plight of the Nuba. They are literally a people without a country. They fought with the South during the Civil War, as you said, for several decades. Yet they live in North Sudan, north of the border, the new border. South Sudan is a country that was only birthed last year, July the 9th, 2011. They'll be celebrating their first birthday, July the 9th of 2012. It's a nation that has not yet ratified a constitution. Their infrastructure, and that includes financial issues. It includes sewer systems. We lived in the capital city of Juba for almost 3 weeks, not by choice, but because we couldn't get out of there. And they have no sewer system. The entire city, which is about the size of Memphis, Tennessee, runs on generators, if you could imagine that. The water supply, the drinking water has to come out of bottles. Finances, when we were there the first week or so, inflation went up 40%. Very high cost of living, on par with Tokyo, Japan. Incredible situation there. We went through Cairo, Egypt, and then flew from there directly into Juba, which is the capital city of South Sudan. We were going to go into Uganda to pick up supplies, but that didn't work out. Again, this is a nation that's still under sanctions. It's on a short list of countries like Iran, North Korea, Cuba, and countries like that, where you cannot send money, especially large amounts of money. You just cannot do it. So our finances were inhibited for almost 3 weeks. And during that time, the Lord opened up all kinds of opportunities for us to minister and meet a lot of people. There's a Nuba diaspora even inside of South Sudan, because most of the Nuba people are up north, but there were a larger growing population of the Nuba in the city.
What about the sentiments of the southern Sudanese people toward the Nuba people?
I think that, there's acceptance at some level, but they are really a disenfranchised people. They're a dispersed people. They do not have any citizenship rights in South Sudan because they're from the north. That's where they live. That's their home. So you can go through a process of becoming a citizen, but as far as getting jobs and just having entree into the greater society, the larger tribes really dominate that government and that country right now. The issue is, and this is the real thing I think people need to understand, is the international community is putting a tremendous amount of pressure on South Sudan right now. For example, the United Nations, the African Union, and even our State Department will say to South Sudan, do not support the Nuba people. And then they will say to the North Sudan, who's bombing the Nuba people, do not bomb the Nuba people. Well, the North is not going to stop doing doing what it's doing. The South has to then exercise its discretion on how much they can be affiliated with the Nuba people before they would incur sanctions against themselves from the U.S. State Department or others.
The most of people, they live in North Sudan, especially in the border between North and South Sudan as a new country. We have a group of Nubian, which the people that we are talking about. And then we have a group we call Messiria group and Eastern Arab tribes. And we have some of Western people, they live on the border also between North and South. But the majority of people, they live in the North right now is Nubian. They live in Nubian state. And then we have Blue Nile people. Also, it's another state. They live in North. And those two groups, Nubian and Blue Nile, those that are starving because they start war again against the North, against the government of Khartoum. And as Brother Greg said, they have been fighting with South. They joined the South in the first 20 years in war. And then after the referendum of South, the declaration, they didn't give them right to be a country or to be part of South. They have to be part of North, but with no any right. That is why they start fighting again. They have been bombed. They have been, the first thing they have been, the genocide have been practiced against them from the first class since 20 years. And then when they sign a ceasefire, they start last year, they bombing them again, Nuba area and Blue Nile area. That is why the most of people, they flew their village and they hide in Gev and they live on mountains. And the large number now, they flee and they're going to the Ede camp, it's the refugees camp. When we was in Juba in 2 weeks, there is a lot of bomb was going on in Bantu city. And was very serious because they was planning to bomb the bridge that is connect Bantu and another city that is where the supply is coming from north. But I thank God they didn't make it because they threw the bomb away like 1 mile from the bridge. Because if they bomb that bridge, then they will cut everything. Nothing will come from the north part to the south. After we left Nuba Mountain with 2 days, I called back and they said, I think we was still in Juba. They bombed the area where we visit. It's we call Omdoron region. They bombed it and they killed many cows after just 2 days when we left that.
This was after you departed?
Yes.
Pastor Greg came and presented the opportunity to our church and to the surrounding churches probably about a month or two before we departed. And at that point, my answer was no, because I have 2 children at home, 6 and 4, and one 17-year-old out of the house with my wife, wonderful wife, Kimberly. And I was going to school at Union University, and I have a full-time job at Hilton. So I was pretty busy and a lot of responsibilities. So literally 2 weeks before we departed, Greg was giving the presentation to our small group leaders at the church, and the Lord at that point told me that I need to pray about it and go talk with my wife. And it happened literally 1 week before we left, or 2 weeks before we left, that it was decided that I was going with Greg. It wasn't just that one night. The Lord had been tugging on my heart. I saw the eyes, the people's hearts in that video that Greg had presented, and it just wouldn't let go of my heart, so I had to go. It was starting to rain. We got off the plane. The plane was very nice, and we walked into their airport, and there was no windows. It looked like it had been bombed, and people are rushing around, rushing to go nowhere. Armed guards were over there searching bags, and then as your bags come in, they're not just on a conveyor belt, they are throwing them in the middle of the room. So I'm over there trying to secure our bags while Nasser and Pastor Greg are trying to get our visas. And it cost us $100 just to enter. And that was the first experience. And then our people that were supposed to meet us there, the Nuba Relief, were not there. So it's raining, nowhere to go, no car. There is a pavilion out there with this, just people that live there was underneath there, and then the people that just got off the plane. And I'm thinking, well, we're going to be here for a while. But Nasser found us a guy that just has a car there, and he began to take us around Juba to try to find a hotel.
And what was that like?
Well, we went to 2 or 3, and he come back into the car, and Nasser did, and they would say, no, that's not the one. So the Lord led us to Juba Grand Hotel. It was a nice hotel. 3 weeks before that, before we got there, they were saying that people were breaking into hotels and different houses and companies to they kill and rob the people of their money, like people like us. So and then that hotel, about 4 weeks before, it did not have running water, or you just wouldn't want to stay there. So the Lord took care of us, is what I'm saying. The hotel was nice enough for us to stay there.
Getting down to the wire, I had been interviewing young men who were committing themselves to go, but as they worked through family issues, job issues, etc., the timeline was just too abbreviated for them to make that commitment. I knew Nasser's heart. I knew my heart. I, like Bobby, had just been really pricked to the core for these people. I saw in their eyes a desperation, and I knew that was on my heart. I was in a church actually sharing, my 4 daughters were sitting in the back, about the need, and Nasser was with me. We were on the stage together. And the Lord just said, you're going. And so I announced it right there. My girls heard it first when I was standing up before a church asking for volunteers and asking for people to obviously give. And so it was that, you said 2 weeks before we left. It really was that quick. And so we had to turn everything around at that moment and start making preparations for that. It was really quite an experience. We had only planned on being gone for no more than 3 weeks. We ended up being gone for a month. And the reason we were gone is we actually were trapped in Juba for that 3 weeks. Our finances could never clear. We had only planned on staying in that city for no more than 4 days, so we only had enough finances to stay in hotels, very expensive hotels. We ended up staying there for so long, we were actually destitute twice. We ran out of money. And because of the sanctions, there's no real legal way to get the money to us. So Bobby's wife and my 4 daughters and another pastor friend of mine went to meet with Somalian locals here in Memphis, and they were able, in a way that is sort of legal, to get us money so that we could actually survive during that time and pay our bills there while the Lord was working to prepare our next phase of the journey. So they were involved in sort of holding the lifeline for us while we were gone. One of my younger daughters was actually hospitalized while I was gone, and so my 19-year-old, who had durable power of attorney, checked her into Lebanon, and with assistance from other families from our church, was able to write all that out. And so they really did a great job. I'm very proud of what they did and how they did it, and all the other people who helped them. We knew it was fly by the seat of your pants, no I's dotted, no T's crossed, the experience that we were going into, because it's a new nation, no infrastructure, cost of living, going up and down constantly, still a lot of military rogue armies around, all that sort of stuff. So all that expectation was met and exceeded for us there. I think the real thing that really sort of set me back is that we couldn't move forward with what we were trying to plan. We kept planning, we kept meeting with vendors and merchants and negotiating deals. We were never able to consummate those deals, and that went on. And finally, at one point, we just were very frustrated, and we scrapped the entire mission. And I told my girls this the other day, is when our mission ended, God's began. And so it all turned on a dime, and I can just not even begin to explain what happens next, but it's very, very exciting, very powerful. He was breaking us down and showing us that we couldn't do this ourselves, but he was also bringing many brothers and sisters to us. We met people we had never met. But the most exciting thing is the second part of the journey. He was preparing the people that we were going to encounter once we departed from Juba. That's what really is the real message here. The night that we met with a council of Nuba pastors, One of the things that I wanted to accomplish on the mission is I'd actually taken a shepherd's staff from here that was cut here in the United States. It was prepared by a member of our church, packed up, shipped it all the way there, and I was looking for that shepherd leader, the good shepherd for the Nuba people. And we were visiting different churches almost every week. As we visited, word got out that we were there, that we were a team of people trying to go to the Nuba Mountains. This Nuba Council had formed itself there in the city of Juba, and they sought us out, sought a meeting. We had the meeting, sort of cast the vision. I pulled the staff out, and I said, I don't know if it's one of you men, but I'm looking for the good shepherd for the Nuba people here. Is one of you supposed to take this staff? Well, this brother took that staff, and for us, that was sort of like a release. And he actually took it and placed it on his shoulders, Byron, put his arms around it like it was a burden. And for us, we were transferring that burden for the Nuba people over to the Nuba leadership. And so I felt released at that moment, but after we broke up that evening, I went back to my room, and the Lord just broke my heart. And I began to weep, and he told me, he says, I've called you to go to the Nuba Mountains, and you're going to the Nuba Mountains. And at that point, I didn't understand how that could happen because all of our efforts had failed up to that point. Bobby, his job was needing him back. He had been there longer than he was supposed to be. He'd already made a commitment to return, and I felt that I wanted to return to with him, but the Lord said, no, you're not going back. And so for me, that's when it began. I didn't have all the answers. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I knew I was going to the Nuba Mountains then.
They were so happy, and I saw one of our pastors. There was 4 of them. One of them, he was crying. He was really very crying. And he said, I think this is the day that the Lord give us commitment to our people again. And we are going to do it. And we will keep it on. We will pray for Nuba people until we see the hand of God going with them. And his heart was really burned deeply for what Greg gave it to them and handle them authority that they can pray for Nuba people and they can be good shepherd and just keep praying. And they promise us that they will just keep praying to the Nuba people until they see the peace, until they see the people of Nuba, their life is getting better and people, they coming back to the Christ. That's what is happening. And also we get many groups that was coming to us in the church, and we did a Bible study with them, and they had a lot of questions, and they was asking, and we try to help them with the Word of God, how they can grow, and how they can do their evangelize, and how they can witness to the other people. And many other groups, they come and we get really very good fellowship in prayer. And we share not just Nubian, but I believe there is other groups from Ethiopian and groups from India. They was there, and we share the love of Christ with them. And that is why I said the Lord hold us for 3 weeks in Juba for us to finish that mission there before we go to Nuba Mountain. Because the mission is not just, we was looking to the Nuba Mountain, but the Lord was pointing to the other groups that was in Juba. They need our help in the spiritual, and that is what is happening.
When we were meeting with the Nuba Council, there were some Ethiopian gentlemen sitting away from us, and they were listening to what we were saying. And one of them approached me after the meeting and said, I heard what you were saying to those Nuba people about their people and about, a good shepherd for their people. And he says, is there any hope for my nation? And I said, absolutely, there's hope for your nation. And he goes, tomorrow I will bring some people from Ethiopia, and we will meet with you, and you will tell us the hope for our nation. And so I don't know if it was the next night, but the next few days, we made an appointment and had a whole other group of Ethiopians that came and met, and it was just awesome. So God was stirring the nations literally there. We had Indians, we had all kinds of people, Eritreans, I think that's how you say it, other people that are friendlies, that are there, and they're looking for hope. We also got to meet with the University of Juba. Bobby established some good relationships with some professors there. Hopefully we're going to have some partnership with some sister universities here in America. They're wide open for military, for business, for the church, for all kinds of leadership development. There's great opportunities there. If you'd like to know more, you can also contact me. My name is Greg Spears. My contact cell phone is 901-331-9469. And I would do anything I can to help you understand what's going on and how you can participate in the Nuba project. If you go to SaveTheNuba.com just to inform yourself, there's tons of information right there.
Thanks for listening to Mid-South Viewpoint. If you'd like to join the conversation, you can email us. Our address is wcrv@botradionetwork.com. This has been Mid-South Viewpoint, another Christian news and information feature from Bot Radio Network 640 AM.